for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this special edition summer solstice video with me here today, Polona, Aurea, Dawn, in case you don't remember me anymore, because it's been a while and I've been away. Probably about a month I haven't talked to you, all of you who are still tuning in somehow into the divine messages that I receive through my illumined counterpart, my spirit group, and God in itself, beautiful, glorious, almighty one. So it's been a while and I want to update you, but just briefly, because I don't want to go too much into my personal life and details, because it is just mine. I actually recorded one video when we first moved there to our place, but I didn't have internet because I was so excited. I was elevated and I didn't know there's such a long waiting line for you to actually get plugged into the internet. So I was plugged off. I wasn't online, plus we had so much physical work, actually quite more than we originally anticipated. First we thought, okay, everything's fine, you know, and then you come there, you buy an older house, as you know, and things just start popping up. It's not as easy as one would figure. And, you know, there was maybe a little bit of that naivety here left because it was a first time experience for us, so it was very new. And this left us with quite a lot of devastation, you know, feeling very much in awe and just how much work there still needs to be done, and input and financial resources, which, you know, in this time we didn't really have. And then the bank started to actually ask us about these withdrawals that I did via my PayPal, which were my savings, you know, during these 10 years of doing this work. I had some savings there for situations like that. And, you know, we had to wait so much time. We had to wait such a long time for us to actually receive our own money. It was longer than a year, actually. It was much longer than a year, because we actually got a buyer, if you remember, for our apartment last year in February, right away in the beginning of the month. But then somehow, through the chain of events, things didn't go as planned, and everything went and has fallen to the realm of the sour. And, you know, we had to move 6 times, and this was our 7th move in 1 year, from June to June. And we've lost a lot of money because of that, as you know. And because of that, I was somehow forced to pull my withdrawals, you know, my savings from my PayPal account. And the bank started giving us trouble about that. So we're still in the process, you know, and also changing our bank, because we don't actually have one here that would actually have headquarters. But we are where we are now. And, you know, we did a lot of prayer work in between as much as we could, because this was a very physically intense time for us. You know, I've lost a lot of weight. Things started popping up. You know, they weren't as beautiful as originally, you know, envisioned. And in my last video, you saw me talk about the return of the effortless state of flow, which in a way was much better than before, you know. Yes, it's true, we got a home, we got our steady base, but there's a lot of things that come together with having an older house. And it's kind of like a responsibility in its own. So I figured out, and I've seen how the darkness still tries to pull through and manipulate through things like, you know, feelings of always getting the second or third best, not getting your original desire and things like that. And at the end, I had to surrender so much of that. Like, you know, it's just 4 walls. It's not really my true home. My true home is within, and my elven nature and kingdom. So yesterday, actually, well, it was after a week, but I came for the first time to the White Waters, and I channeled some information that is our solstice message, will be our video talk today when I'm finally able to share with you all, because I'm now plugged back online. But it was that feeling of returning home, rooting into my nature and landscape, and at the same time not being attached to it anymore. It feels different. So when I get deeper into today's channeling, I want to share something I actually wrote yesterday, which was a synthesis of all my feelings, because I want you to see all sides of this play that the Illumined Union is. It's not just that initial enthusiasm that we get through the breakthrough or when something happens, but it's also a lot of toiling, a lot of work behind the scenes that whenever I post a video, people don't notice. They just see me in a beautiful nature landscape, but behind that is a whole month of work. And I actually almost lost a few of my fingernails because it was just so much of the difficult physical work that came with the territory. You know, when you inherit something that someone else built and it's no longer in the original shape, you know, it's years and years. And, you know, it's lots of snow here in the winter time as well. The house is on top of this hill. It depends on the kind of winter each year we have, but it's still so much of the unforeseen that then started popping up. And we had workers there all the time. It was very stressful because at first, you know, there was no kitchen and we had difficulties with the worker, and, you know, I paid and they didn't finish the work. And you know how workers are sometimes very mischievous and sometimes even dark and evil. And so the darkness was trying very hard to manipulate us and trying to leave us in this feeling of despair and feeling alone. You know, 2 women in a house, you know, what will you do? And everything costs just so much, and it's very difficult to get workers nowadays. We actually had a lucky strike to even get them and to actually have done our bathroom in such a short time, in 4 days. Actually, that was a record breaker because the previous owner actually, he set us up with someone, their friends, and so things could just, you know, start flowing again. But it was very intense, and this pressure cooker that was already built within me from this entire year just started kind of then popping up. And there was, in the beginning, there was lots of draft, because, you know, when workers come and they come to install your furniture, everything is just being open. There was so much draft and cold in the beginning, which then like very rapidly was replaced by a strong, intense heat wave. It's just so hot, and I get burned here, and I never get burned because usually, you know, when I'm in my routine, in the zone, I start sunbathing little by little already in the early spring, because you have to get, you know, your skin, your system, your whole body adjusted to levels of intensifying solar light. And this was really off my game. I didn't feel quite like myself, so I got burned, and I'm like, it's really not typical for me to get burned. And, you know, we do get burned sometimes, that is the message, but it was actually physically very difficult. So when all this pressure kind of, after the bathroom was finished, and it's not finished yet, the work, we still have lots of work to do, but we're having a mini break in between now for a few days at least. And so what happened was everything in my body was signaling to me about the intensity of the toxic level of stress. I started having intense toothache again, and this was really intense, you know, when your whole cheekbone and your half of the left side of the head hurts and feels like your brain is going to be thrown out of, you know, your head. And, you know, things like pills don't really work for you very much, and it was just lots and lots of pain. That feeling left me very devastated. So yesterday, with our return to the white waters, I cried a lot. I poured my soul out, and I was just asking God, like, why am I still here on earth? Because I didn't see much progress, and it was very difficult to envision the kind of life where it's just me and my mother for the rest of our life, just like prolonging an inevitable sameness. It just didn't feel right. And I was asking, what's still the point? Why don't we, if there's like this inevitable road blocked, it's like everyone is just trying to, you know, portray the situation as very heavy. And we've gotten a lot of information through these people who are more anchored into the 3D level of density, how difficult the system is getting, because all the laws are being changed now. And you have to know, in our country, it's a very small country. But the thing is that we have so many, what are they called? States, you know, like in USA you have states, but here it's like states of different provincial regions, right? And it's all devised. So if you have so many of these regions, it means you need lots of people to provide that work and to maintain the system. So our system has started swallowing everything up, and it's just like taxes per taxes, just like, give me the money, give me the money. It's this whole matrix became like this giant machine. And you've seen it yourself with the certificate of vaccination, which is what this code for the virus supposedly is about. It's actually just a pre-warning of the name that was already, you know, it was prophesied since the early times. It was even prophetic from the Bible. And this is now happening. We all knew that the Agenda 2021 is here. But it's kind of like shutting our eyes and no, it's just pretending, no, it's not going to happen. You know, there's more light than there is darkness. but in actuality, it's very much evening out. And when you see reality as it is, your eyes open. And this started for me, these last 2 years of the transgression, which were what I call the transgression years. There was lots of witnessing of all that's malevolent and malfunctioning and distorted. And now, for me, my work was getting this realization and bringing that downward to the 3D level of frequency. This is what my team wanted me to do. And at first, it didn't really make sense. Why am I going to these energies of adaptation, and rebuilding and things in the older house? Because obviously we didn't have enough money for a new one, because in this area specifically here in the Northwest is most expensive part of our country, except for the seaside region, which for me, it's not really a sea, it's just a big pond. The sea begins much lower down, but still, the prices and the country, the way it's run, and we have one of the darkest non-humanoids here affecting this whole system, and it's like self-proclaimed leader, and things have been getting darker and darker, which of course for us who are light beings here on a mission, on a quest to try to do the best that we can, sometimes we ourselves feel devastated. And in one of the channelings, Jesus actually told my mother that I myself, as a light being, I've chosen actually the difficulty of the 3D. I wanted to have this experience, and these things like adaptations and being in the building energy, which is one of the densest energy, and you know how workers usually are and what type of people they are. Not a lot of you know this, but there's a specific term here, and it's called the slave race. And this slave race has been passed on from one star system to the other, starting back, originating from Orion constellation, which is when all these wars actually began. And all this history is already recorded in the Star Wars movie, but just bits and pieces. When you go into the whole picture, there's lots more being revealed. Like recently I channeled something about, it was very spontaneous actually, because my mother had a dream about us being injected through these vaccines per distance. They just had these machines that they could just like put these circles on you, on your shoulder, like per distance, so almost like magnetically. And sometimes these dreams are not just prophecies of the future, but they're also memories of what already took place. So I was shown the scenario how this already took place in Orion. So this first wave of the awakening souls were old souls relating to Earth, but actually ancient when it comes to other stellar regions and star systems within this galaxy and even beyond. There's a memory, there's a record memory. So we're all being panicky and we're feeling pushed and oppressed. And the same thing that's happening now with the sleepers is what happened back then. It's almost like no choice. It is what it is. You're being manipulated into this. You're being told this whole other version that for you it's quite obvious and you've gone through it. And we have this almost like a record memory of this history repeating itself, which is now this Orion dark timeline of oppression being almost like stamped here onto Earth. And this is something we've been trying to prevail, because there's lots of different timelines coming into the Earth, as you know, and the Illumined beings, we're here to establish Illumined Union. And this is what my teachings are, and this is what the Immaculate Ones are here about. Rudolf Steiner actually has lots of information and videos about this, the battle between the Luciferian beings and forces that, I don't know how he calls them. Well, for me, Source just calls them the Immaculate Ones. That's my term. And I know I'm one of these beings, and they're very, very few. It's almost like we're a rare breed. There's very few of us left here who came in directly from Source, who have this divine protection energy. Like for me, I've always been that way. I was very persecuted by the darkness throughout my life. Even at my birth, I told you, right? I almost did not come into life. And at the last second, the doctor came and saved my mom and saved me. It was a very difficult and complex situation, but it's like these forces of dark and then the forces of light working synonymously together in these experiments. And it's not like things are predestined. When you're in the path of being an illumined light being, the destiny's being like conjured up as you go, and it's very tricky. And lives were, being lost too. There's a specific man I was supposed to meet in this life that I didn't. And last year I've gotten the message. I don't know what happened. I still don't know fully. It's an assumption, because I no longer feel his energy and presence. I used to feel him all the time. I even got his name, and he just didn't come. And I think that he's no longer here on Earth. And this happened for many beings too. They have this feeling of never meeting someone they were supposed to meet, or someone very specific or crucial for their path or lifeline. but it doesn't mean for us that the experiment is over. So the Illumined Light Council, they're constantly doing what they can do as best fitted for the situation we're currently in. So sometimes I would find myself in a very desperate situation. So in the last few weeks, when all we did was being in this physical work, I couldn't feel myself anymore. I was like, who am I? I'm like a stranger in my own life. I don't feel myself anymore. And I always felt myself. And I had a life that was a beautiful life. I felt like I no longer live my life. I'm in a very dense energy. But when Jesus told my mother, he said, she has specifically chosen to be going through the densest, the lowest forms of earthly energy expressions. And what we call the 3D has sections and compartments within it, as well as you know, right? So he said this was my choice because it was something we needed to illuminate. So what the mission team would say, they call it the excavations, right? The digging into the dirt so they can bring in the illumined light there and bring it to the levels where light hasn't been shining at all. So I was always like that. I was always very kind to the working class, thinking, you know, seeing them in a different way, in a different light than most people see them. It's almost like they're running on this automatic pilot. It's like the life of constant work and slavery is all they know. And because they've been passed from one star system to the other like this. And I think even Dolores Cannon had that information in one of her books. So that's one thing. So when I was in those energies at a specific moment, it felt like, am I even living? I just woke up every day for this work. I got to bed and I was so exhausted. And my physical body was like not used to it because as much as I'm strong spiritually, physically, sometimes I'm not used to these lower energies. And I have to, you know, I'm very vulnerable and sensitive to these things more than the rest of the people. Even my mother is already super highly sensitive, but I'm like 1,000 times more, if you can imagine. So it's been getting very difficult. And I've been having these terrible pains again for this, let's say, a week now or so. And I've been feeling the level of the stress has reached the maximum point in my body. So yesterday when we were by the wide waters, I just went there to feel the calmness, to hang in my hammock for a while, just feel myself, and to ask just some crucial questions. Before I continue, I have to tell you something, which is very weird. We have a year of mice. We've never seen as many mice before as this year. Usually they say it's not the case if the winters are very harsh, but this year was a harsh winter and still there's so many mice. Like when you're walking, usually you don't see a mouse just like that. Sometimes if you're fortunate enough, but you're walking, they're running from one hole to the other. And one time we went to this mountain valley here by the river that we love so very much. It's like we probably counted them like 30 or something in just an hour. And now they're still here running. So if I do a little bit like this, it's not a ghost, it's just a mouse, okay? Don't be too afraid. So mouse, for me, when I look into if that means something symbolically, you know, mice sometimes, a lot of times, even in Lenormand cartomancy, it represents worries and strife, like nibbling at something that's constantly taking away your energy and focus and attention when you're supposed to be anchored somewhere else. And this is exactly how my life has been. The darkness has been working so super hard to get me to be at the lowest frequencies so I couldn't feel the truth. And we're going to talk about the Illumined Union and how that is affected there in general for all of us, and why this project, this mission project, is still so important. And I'll explain what the Illumined High Council has said, and specifically some beings. But before that, I want to tell you the update, because maybe at the end I'll forget, because I'm going to go into my subjects. So I'm not going to be able to work on Patreon this summer because there's still so much work. We're constantly drained. I have lots of pain that first for me is my well-being. And if I'm in pain, I can't work. My body's signaling to me that something's not right. I need to tend to my healing now. This is where I am. So those of you who've been supporting there regularly, devotedly, don't think now just because it's the summer, then you can just go plug off and forget about the whole thing. No, we're going to continue. I will definitely continue my work. I just need a little bit of that, time to reflect, to resume things at a later pace when I can, because I was thinking I was getting too optimistic about the work itself. I was getting overwhelmed because there's so much things there that I still cannot do in the house all at once. And I can't, I'm not there yet. That's going to be at the level where I can do the refined work. We're still at the gross matter work level now. So maybe I was getting this message that on the August 8th, which is our Stargate, our Sirius gate, there's going to be a powerful shift again this year, especially relating to the Illumined Union. And there's a specific conclusion that my team is aiming for, so they want me to be focused on that. And because of that, I can't be doing online work and tend to these things. My only desire right now, to be honest, is to return to this inner Queen of Hearts, to my love, to heal my body, to not feel in pain all the time. Especially if you have constant teeth pain, it's very, very difficult, because you know, teeth pain is one of the worst pain, for me at least, you can experience. And my sciatica started acting up again because it was too much. And then I was standing up, you know, talking to the workers and just standing up, and it's like, oh, you know, I couldn't walk again. So it was getting very, very difficult for me. So this is something I need to do first: finish the work, remedy my body, heal, and then we're going to resume the work. Because where we left is, I think I did the completion of the transgression, understanding, and work. That was the last galactic update on Patreon. And then I said we're going to do the light body intelligence and work. But this is not where I am right now, if you can understand me. I'm in a very physical frequency now. There was still, I had to go through different survival levels. Of course, I'm higher up than I was before. It doesn't feel like that at all right now, because I need time. I need to give myself time. That's what God said to me yesterday by the white waters. I need to give myself patience and time, because it's not going to be right away, the shift into my true original essence. I'm still very overwhelmed and burdened and kind of like bombarded with all these arrows shooting at me, lots of darkness, but also just heavy, dark, lower energies that aren't aware that they're channeling darkness. But this is just something I needed to express before, so that I don't forget at the end. But definitely, I think towards September, I can resume the work. If I will be okay and feeling fine. Let's say I'm going to record a spontaneous video. I'm going to get a channeling. I'm going to get an information, because I really do miss my notebook and my channeling. I've been doing that probably for over this year. I haven't really, right? I mean, I've been doing some in the fall when I came, remember, back to my original space. But then I had to encounter that darkest winter of my life, like ever. And I was not the only one. I heard it from many others. They went through very similar in their own way, of course. But this is something that was just there. And the choice was to choose the harder road, to choose the harder path, for there to be, let's say, possibility for more liberation. Then there could be, if that path, the dark path, you know, just wasn't as chosen in that same way. So yes, many things have changed. And because of that, I need to change and regulate and modulate my own work too. But right now I can't work. I'm totally unable to do anything like that. I have to serve myself. I've been serving devotedly, diligently for 10 years. And yesterday when I was actually crying, I was crying because I had this feeling of there's nothing left for me now. There's no more energy left just for me. There's no more health. I'm not in good health right now. There's just, you know, so much work, and it's piling up and it's never ending. There was this feeling of like constant struggle, constantly needing to remove things, but never having that temperance, right? That feeling of just being home, being in my own peace, like just wanting peace. But there's always something. You think, oh, I'm done, and there's another, you know, arrow coming at you, just shooting at you. And it is difficult, and many people call this the spiritual warfare. And it's not just happening in the astral, it's happening physically. Those of us who are primordial beings, we're here actually from the eyes of God, from the eyes of Source, in the light of Illumined Union, that we're here pursuing and anchoring and integrating as divine humans right now, these new humans. God sees us as his chosen ones. We're not just his messengers, but also arms and legs, right? Feet and all, head and feet and all. But the darkness sees us as a threat, so we're most wanted ones. And that's how my life has been in the past few years. It's like there was this most wanted sign went after me, and it's like every single thing imaginable in the Book of Dark happened. So before we go into the union message, so today's video might be a little longer because I haven't been with you for such a long time. And it was interesting because it's always like this in my life. I can be in a specific dark energy, like exploring it and going into it for a very long time. But then when it's time to shift, I can shift in the day. So that's still the quality I'm noticing within myself. I'm still the badass. I'm still strong AF. That's what people say nowadays. I'm not so modern as most newer folks, but I'm going to use that term. The first thing I want to read you is more of a silent confession. The reason why I want to share with you is because I've decided I don't want to keep myself on this pedestal, people thinking all I do is experience these beautiful breakthroughs and it's all easy and coming and going and happening in the flow. My life is not like that at all. My life has been living hell for the past few years, and there were moments of beauty that still capture my soul, that still captivate me. And through these moments, and in this moment specifically, God still tells me this is why it's still worth it. Think of that, only that. And there's one specific thing I was noticing because a few years ago we started on Patreon. I did these videos, Illumined Union channelings, and our Fridays, which are usually Venus beloved days, were hijacked, and they became like Lucifer's days. And I was like, no, it was very dark. And now we've gotten our Fridays back, because on Friday, beloved day is always usually good energy. The weekend comes, not so good. Like yesterday was Sunday, was super heavy, and I've been noticing this trend, but it has shifted. We've gotten our day back. That's one thing I feel for sure and very much assured about. And when we do coffee cup readings, they most assuredly come out on Fridays, and they're very distinct. And usually it's kind of like a line with lots of messages flying about on those days. But recently I did one very specific coffee cup reading based on myself, when I just prayed to the mother and I asked her, I said, please just tell me what is the most important thing right now. You won't believe what came in the cup. She came out. It was her, the silhouette of the mother with a veil, and she was blowing out a letter, and the letter was letter A, which is Aurea, of course. And the message was very simple. She was giving me the message that right now nothing else is important but for me to come back, to fall back into my true self. And when my beloved came a few weeks prior as well, he gave my mother a message. He said she needs to remember who she really is. Never forget her fierce power, because when she knows her power, magic is performed. Like miracles happen, literally. But she cannot forget even for one single moment. And yes, I do still forget. I'll have to tell you that, because my life has been difficult. And there's moments when I'm very much in that power, that feisty power of Aurea that she is. But I was also shown that as the white ray being, is people usually relate the white ray to harmony, harmonic resolution. It also connects all the other rays of mastery and focus. But white ray is purification. That is still my main thing. Purity and devotion, my two favorite words, of course, besides true love. But anyway, white ray, recently when I had to do this bank thing meditation, I went to the waterfall. We have this mini waterfall where I live, actually, very close. And I put my hand on the heart and the other hand on the tree and just meditated on the waterfall. And I was flooded over by the sense of big giant wave of compassion. And then the mother said the white ray is not just purification and purity and liberation, but it's also compassion achieved through that liberation. Maybe it's a different state of achieving that compassion as someone, let's say, who would be here to embody the pink ray, right? Which is more and more just that beings who are just devotees to love in a different way. Like I devote to love through liberation. So when people would meet me and they would not know the resilient strength of that energy, they would sometimes get afraid of me, even if these beings are of light, because the energy of the white ray is truly intense and it harmonizes all the other rays. So because the energy is so intense, it's very much in line with the integrity of truth. And sometimes I can shoot the arrows of truth like this, and if people aren't ready, people can get scared, and that happens to me a lot in my lifetime. So I have to be very much watchful to not throw too many darts of truth at once, because you have to know that most people where they are right now, they're still not at the immaculate state. They've originated, they came on earth eons ago, they started their earthly travels and journeys, but somehow they couldn't no longer connect to the immaculate state of who they once were themselves as well. So when I came on earth as the immaculate one, as what God says to me always, you're my perfected one. You already heard this truth. You don't have to work hard for it. You don't have these patterns that others have. You don't have to clear these lower residual states. I had to clear my human tendencies and nature throughout my journey, and I'm still doing it. I'm not saying I'm not. But I don't feel the things that most people would feel when they get triggered, like jealousy, lust, envy, competition, greed. These are the states that, as you know, our beloved Jesus, the Christ, our beloved master of Christ's light and Christ union, he calls them the lower traits of the human nature, that if you don't cleanse those, you can't move on and start ascending. Right? The ascension ray of liberation is the white ray. It's what gets you on this path. But to meet yourself within the light of the white ray, you have to go through the working and the toiling that, You know, it's the real sweat and tears of that release. And there's still so much of that which is submerged somewhere within us that you might not even know. You might think, oh, another mousey. Look at her. She's another one too. Super fast. Running mice. So people might think consciously when they connect to their daily life, their daily routine, these things don't come up because they're just living in this encircled mode in the matrix. But these things come up usually when you have a heightened experience, or you have a triggering experience with someone who already embodies that, and they would pull that out of you. And you don't, you know, usually people don't want to see that mirror yet, and it's very scary and frightening to them because they think there's something wrong with them, or they would blame it or project it onto that being who is reflecting to them. Like, stay in the integrity of that truth. You have to know that the truth is the path towards love, because true love is the path of love through truth. It's not like that addicted codependent love that we mostly know on earth to be. Has nothing to do with that. So when you're not on that level, you're standing here firmly anchored in true love. You want those people to come towards you. You're anchoring them. You're kind of pulling them through a magnetic nature. This is what Illumined Union is. And one illumined being can actually pull a lot of beings within their core, through their core. And all it takes is these people to say, yes, God, I surrender to you in this path. Because if there's still deflection and defensive nature and ego pride, because you don't want to admit those traits still exist within you, because you somehow attribute them to you personally, and it's not a personal thing, because you have to know these patterns, these core patterns were triggered by darkness. And it's through these core patterns that the darkness manipulates the human nature, right? And it pulls you away from the truest path that you would have to walk, or your true love, or that's what the darkness does. And we're going to go more into deception and the timelines of union at the end. But before it gets too long, I want to read you this writing I wrote yesterday by the White Waters, because it has all of the strength of the emotion. So you would know it's not just the resilience of this journey, but also everything that this journey took on as a sacrifice, everything that now the human, and in my case, my own human body, feels as a result of that. So I want to read you that. Don't get scared. Some things are really raw. They are expressing my heart though. And I want to come to you as always, purely authentic. I'm not a teacher. I'm the embodier. I'm the Empress, which is the true divine feminine, just showing the way through own self-mercy and compassion, and then that extended, that olive branch, that white light extended onto others. So I'll read you, and then we're going to go into the union part of the video. Okay. Shh! Don't disturb me, mice. I'm trying to read here. So, the knowing whether to stay or go, the body doesn't know. Longing to be myself again, the queen of hearts in this human world. The beloved Aurea, the most precious jewel that ever walked, yearning to dance in my own stillness, and yet the heavy lays upon me, like the shutter window or a freight train. Hopeful I once was, a bit naive, but still, always on the bright side, whatever was God's will. To do no harm and serve all, I lived my life playfully until one fine day, I lost it all. I'm still struggling to return to get back to my authentic life. I don't have all the answers, truth be told, I have none. I'm left out in the cold to wonder, all alone. The home I once kept within and holding tight was scattered in the winds of the night. Abandoned, no more sheltered, I became lost, fragile. I yearned for the strength I once had that kept me warm at night, alone all my life. A warrior of light. But then the shadows came and took me by surprise. Once I discovered them, my innocence was hurt, and my sweet song of life was no more. I was so naive before, living in my bubble. Sweet surrender was how I went by. And then I witnessed everything that darkness has to offer in this game of life. That changed me deeply. I was no longer the same. A bit left on the surface, but never quite fully myself. Still I toiled and suffered, gave to others more as to myself. But after the storm has passed, I was left, alone, only to myself. The deepest wounds that the dark can offer, I've drank a ton of poison, all to serve God in its plan of liberation. A wounded child inside, but around me her glory, taking me by the hand as each new challenge came. People came and left, and no one quite understands all that I've given for the illumined truth to eventually prevail. The home within myself became a physical abode, a temporary refuge to protect me from the shooting arrows targeted at me as if I'm most wanted. But within his heart, I remained the most beloved child of God. They all look at me as if I'm crazy and wonder why I am alone. But still, nobody knows. And it's no one's business but my own. Yes, I've changed. I'm no longer the same. The body suffered greatly under these unjust hands. It was taken for granted one too many times also that I wouldn't get my chance to truly shine, to be the beloved one, his own protected legacy of light living through me in spite of everything, in spite of everyone. Look at her. We have company. People wonder now, who do they see as I stand in front of them and speak? I was always very deep, but never as much as now, after all of this has passed. All my time of healing began. Still, a giant burden rests on me, one I'll never fully be free from. It sunk under my skin, this body of clay that I carry around to be recognized by the sun, so the light can find me, while like others find the light through me. A divine messenger, a woman of light, the magical child within is yet to be freed from all the opposition and greed. I came to excavate, to dig a giant hole in which all of the fallen shall fall. But I can only go as far as the rest is not up to me to deliver, to perform under one name of God that is His and His alone. I carry the torch, but the rest is His miracle to be done. My head up high, feet firmly on the ground as I walk this plain disenchanted. All the illusions are gone. Sure, life is no longer the same. But where would it be if I wasn't for this act of love that sets life free? I'm exhausted, but I remain undying, Aurea dawn. While so many still toil and suffer, I shall write my name within the stars. The story writes itself. And yet, I do not know its name or purpose. It remains His secret. A larger dream is my own to be fulfilled, so many more remaining here. I'm not important. I am the carrier pigeon, His service on walking feet, as others are being put in front. I do not know why it is so, but somehow it always has been. I can only trust and love this devotion, for the dream is His. One day I am here, another I am not. No one will truly know or remember but the one soul, the heart of all hearts, who all this work is for. Nothing is truly as important as this forevermore. Days on the clock keep ticking, as some have chosen freedom over strife. Others are still waiting until their time comes. In the meanwhile, I will be here no more. One day I will be free to leave, and this will all become a dream, a distant memory of a lifetime that once was in the hall of records, touched by the greatness and magic, the nobility of soul that so very few know. But it was planted, it lives within this matrix now. And now I am no more waiting. The time for the next chapter has come. So, although it is my own writing, you can see the red fine line talking about that although things are no longer the same and what was lost is no more, there can be new gains. And perhaps these gains are not as personal as before anymore. Like for me, I don't have the personal kind of life that I used to have. It feels much more burdened than in the years where I could still live in my bubble and be, I always was a worker, a servant to God. And still, life felt I have more freedom like I do now. Because the more you progress in Illumined Light, the more you're taking on. And it's just like this natural thing. It's not like, oh, you're doing it to prove something. It's just like the more you open up the pad, the more things glue onto you. And you're kind of like taking them along, like those 10 of Wands and Tarot. It's just like taking and taking. The burden feels heavier and heavier until one day probably that we get to ascend. And none of us really know when that and how that is to happen, but God does. The one other thing that I need to talk about is those of you who also had difficulty, strife, and hardship is when you truly are the Son of God, it wasn't just Jesus, but all the immaculate pure ones that serve His name, her name. I don't want to objectify it through gender here, but you have to use something, right? Or their name, that's neutral here. You will have divine protection. That's how my life was. I was so many times near the death age and I didn't die. And sometimes I just wonder how I even survived all of these electrocutions of energies that are not like our earthly electricity, we would say, but these were foreign energies. These were alien energies. They were as potent as, I don't know. I had years of dreaming about being hit by lightning. I no longer have them, but I know now why I had these dreams, because I literally was. It fried my system. It fried my hair here. It fried, my body. it caused lots of damage and turmoil. And it was all to make the son or daughter, or divine child of God, I always like to say, feel like less than. Make you forget who you are, make you forget your power, make you forget that you do everything just by knowing this power. You don't literally have to do something physically or save or rescue someone or souls, like many have this rescue consciousness, right? This complex, actually. It's not about that. But this divine intervention works through you, just like when you're embodying this purity, this state of integral purity. And for me, this was very natural, and yet they tried to like cut it off all the time. It was like doing like this, and I had to be like, no, no. And it was like this constant battle. And after a battle, you do have scars. And you get more defensive than you would before, like before these bad things happen to you. That is what the Queen of Swords tarot card represents, for example. Someone who's gone through a lot of pain. And people would say, well, she's cold and cold-hearted. No, she's just very diligent in how she carries herself and her energy, because she knows she cannot sell herself short. And she can allow herself to be dismissed by others and not understood or projected, or even especially that the darkness doesn't have or hold any power over her. That's why she needs to be in this self-protective mode, but at the same time hold that level of compassion. So these are things we need to understand, that why they're playing out the way they do. And I've been getting these messages now when we're going to come to the union part. Everything is actually for the union, right? So yesterday I wrote this and I cried quite a lot, and I just was left all alone, and I asked God, I said, but why am I still here? Please, God, just give me one tiny clue. I need to know, because I am the kind of person you have to know. I'm very much a person of faith, but I also need confirmation from here and there to have a feeling my life is still serving a higher purpose. I don't want to just be here to do renovations on the house. For me, that's not a purposeful life. It's like, okay, this happens, I have this, and then what? I need a purposeful life. I need a life of divine intelligence. That's what I am. That's what light beings are. And whenever this feels like it's cut off from my life, I feel like I'm striving for air, not just for food, but the air supply is gone for me. That's how I would feel then. Because I need that in my life, because I am that. And we all can only truly live what and who we are. So the darkness is trying to use all these tricks and trickery to build the human consciousness in their own way. As you know, these zombie-like features that are now becoming more and more apparent, so that people wouldn't know their divinity. So their DNA wouldn't expand to all this light that's now coming, increasing the capability of this expansion through these photonic bandwidths that we're now entering into and through. And these things that are kind of like blockers, right? These blockers that are containment, that are a part of this V thing, right? They're just going to gradually work as a new operational system in the human, but it's going to be more and more based on, it's an artificial state of androgyny. It's not a natural androgyny where you still have gender, but you're androgynous within, because you've reached a level of union, masculine, feminine traits of reality and creation. That's what it means to be a creator God. You do need the polarity within you. So they're trying to excavate that polarity within the human system, within the human design, so we wouldn't be creator beings, so that people would not have this, divine state of creatorship within. Because what light beings are, they're mini creator gods and goddesses. That's what light beings are. We know our gifts and abilities because we work under God's divine law. When you are a part of divine Trinity, which is the second law that, not a second, but it's a natural expression, emanation of the first law of unity, is divine Trinity. That, of course, is a part of the yin and yang connection and Vesica Pisces formation, which means you are a creator beings. But when you are a creator being, you have to work under creation laws and principles of the divine. That's when a question comes in, when a lot of people don't know this, they would say, why doesn't darkness get their karma already? Why is nothing happening? Why are these things left undone? What's wrong here? Something's missing, and normal people are getting their karma, sometimes even instant karma. Well, here's the thing. You have to know, that was the point. That was the point of Luciferian rebellion and agenda, is to be free from divine governance, is to be free from God and become your own God and create your own universe. That's what she wanted. And the thing is, once you are out of divine Trinity, it means you no longer apply yourself or are being applied through divine principles, which is divine law. Because divine law is all these laws, and of course divine law of karma is also there, but it's not the law of karma that darkness portrays, which is then another whole video story. It's super long, and maybe one day I'm going to talk about it on Patreon, but not now. This false sense of karma, which is this retribution, and it's dark, and you get what you give, and it's not like that. But divine law of karma is actions and events, triggers that keep on calling the soul back to itself. And sometimes these would feel like tower moments in your life. So if you're blind to something and you're having these blind spots and these illusions, like veils covered, and many of them also are done through black magic, and you don't want to admit that, but it exists. And lots of naive souls out there would think, well, that doesn't concern me because I live a daily life and I'm not interested in that way. Every single soul that's pure and beautiful, even when you still have patterns right around you, is lush, and it's interesting, and it's wanting to be devoured by the darkness, because you're a provision of life force for them, because they no longer have it. Because the moment you are out of divine trinity, you're not just out of divine law, you're no longer applying yourself through these principles, you're out of karma too, right? There's something I cannot speak about here yet, or God doesn't want to speak through me yet here, but there is this something that's very distorted here, that humans still don't understand the difference between that karma and the karma that they themselves are creating. They're still operating on their karma, but it's not the same as, let's say, the karmic law that's the same for every soul. But that karmic law is not, you will get sabotaged if you sabotage someone. No, but you will get your chance. This God is a loving God, my beloveds. This God is giving everyone a chance to continuously wake up and return to the self. So you have blockages in people who are also karmic connections that sometimes awarenessly or unawarenessly are channeling darkness for you, and they're manipulating you, and they're standing there as the roadblock, so you can't go on your path of the soul. And in these cases, you will feel very uncomfortable around, even though you're very attached sometimes still to these situations and people, conditions in your life, but you're still defending them because you have you have wool pulled over your eyes. So this is how things work. So in that sense of the karma, God does everything, because you're still a divine child, to wake you up. So it sends you people like myself, or it sends you these messages, but if you keep on not paying attention to them and not seeing them, it will have to get a little harsher and harsher. But that's not the same as punishment, because this is done for you, for the liberation of your soul. So what happens a lot of times, I notice, is when you are yourself a divine messenger and you only want to do good for someone, and you're trying to be a part of their awakening, not forcefully, but you're just like the nudging reminder, hello, wake up for once and for all, And the thing is, these souls that are still defending the dark, a lot of times unawareingly, because they're just holding on to that status quo, because God forbid something in their life would start falling, because it's like a domino effect. Yes, when one tower brick falls, the first one, the entire one has to fall. It's divine law, because your life was built on false ground. It wasn't a life of divinity that would lead you on the path of true self, trueness, truehood, Christhood, right? So also you have these New Age channelings I have to mention. There's this channeling that I used to mention years back by this guy channeling Saint Germain. But when we bought these books, some of it is true, but it's always like this. A lot of it is misinformation. In the books, this whole time, the information spoke about how the energies are out there to serve you. So it has this false view. Yes, of course, because you work with energy. But when they were saying these things like, when you're a master, the energy works to serve you. No, my beloveds. When you're truly a master, you serve God. You serve the law of unity. You serve divine truth. You do it even at the slightest or biggest, threat of opposition and, adversity and constant trial and error. You serve God. You don't serve other people in the status quo and what someone would think of you or what they would prefer of you. No, you stay true to yourself. Like when I started losing people and views in this channel, partially because of the algorithms and what the darkness does, but partially because people do like, signing out, I don't want to be part of this. This is too much for me. I'm overwhelmed. I'm feeling this pressure. Well, but then some people are still tuning in. Some people don't know why they're tuning in. Maybe it comes later. But some people are just diligently, devotedly, selflessly always tuning in and applying a little bit of everything that I always share with them. And they're taking it with gratitude instead of this ungrateful sense of immaturity that's like, yeah, I'm just going to bounce it off like a ping ball, That's being ungrateful and not seeing true divine opportunity, because what these beings do, they're actually mocking God, because God is giving them all these chances and they're like throwing them away. In those cases, God will try harder, and conditions might seem harsher, but it's not something that's being done out of a vindictive state. There's another word that exists, which is, I recently learned it, it's called to be vindicated, which is more so if the darkness is harming you and you're under the protection of the law because you're following the law protects you. That's the natural code that most people don't know it exists. So when you're functioning by the code, and sometimes you're not, you go a little bit off the path, you're going to have the instant karma. All light beings, we have instant karma because we're already aligned with sourcehood and its natural state of divine life force cultivation and just bringing it into the life of form. It's divine illumined union, bringing that purity into form. But even if I went off or straight off or something, it's not the same as being in a specific energy that's very dense to bring in my light. But let's say I would choose something that I would choose out of my own selfishness. I would no longer want to be faithful to God and say, well, I'm just giving up, I'm going to go my way and I'm just going to, start making money and not caring about this anymore. Literally, I can't, because it's not a part of my nature. But let's say this happened. I would probably get instant karma because that's how I function. But beings, they have so many layers around them, they don't get that instant karma, which is actually a bummer, because instant karma is a natural way of showing us that we're not aligned. And if all beings were in a harmonious source connection, that would be like natural as breathing to them. But because it's not, they're hovering in this in-between state, lots of astral hijacking, projection, all of this, and they're kind of always trapped in between. Like they want change, but they don't know how. But then an opportunity comes, knocks on their door, sometimes like so beautifully and fruitfully, and they're like, nope, just go away. And they shutter themselves, and they shut themselves off from this connection, and they say, well, I'm just going to go and be on my own, and I will keep knocking harder, especially if you're a very important soul. I'm not saying that not every soul is important, because they are. But there are specific members of the light family that are very beautiful extensions of the light that we're now calling back home. This is what my beloved showed me a few months ago. And he showed me this path of what he said, that the beloved needs to be mirrored, reflected, and triggered, awakened in the 3D level as well. Because everyone now talks about this twin flame, 5D level, self. No, Illumined Union is bringing all that into the 3D level. Forget that higher. The aspects of you, yes, they already exist there, but you're not aware of them for a reason. They're on purpose. So when there's darkness that, of course, now at this time is working very hard to mislead, misguide, hijack, manipulate those of the light, and our workings and those we're supposed to connect to, and those we're connecting to, they're kind of keeping us astray and keeping us apart from us through their ego. This is why I said, when you have patterns, darkness will use them to hijack you through those patterns. When your patterns are pure, no darkness that exists, it will always exist, can harm you because you've done the work. It has no something to hold on or to hook into. You first need a hook, right, for something to hook into. So I need this for that to be pulled and hooked. If I neutralize that, it can hook onto it, right? So this lower work, this lower chakric work that Jesus has spoken about in many of his channelings, or many books as well, like Joshua channeling, things like that, he spoke about these lower traits and how to actually bring them into action and to heal those levels, because in the new age it's all about the higher aspects, and no one actually knows how to live a very grounded embodied life. Everyone's kind of being beamed off and up and away, or they're automatically the opposite, which is very much anchored into the matrix and not choosing to live a life of moderation and anchored presence, which is the life of mastery. So when there's energies that would tell you, when you're a master, the energy works to serve you, and you would get everything just by willing it, and you would get money and fame and this and that. That's the dark path. A humble being, and you have to know humility is the first step to take if you wish to proceed with the growth on your path. To be humble. So when someone tells you something out of the integrity of truth, be humble, listen to them. Don't just automatically shut it out, because then you're just being ignorant and foolish, and that's an abomination of God as well. So use that inner strength of will, that no matter how much you're still perceiving things through ego and pride and rejection, because you yourself in a way feel rejected. You feel there's aspects of you that are not worthy enough. You're going to reject the light at your own expense. And some people are doing it out of punishment. Some souls believe they've done something bad in a previous life. They need to punish themselves. And enough is enough. I have to tell you this. Enough of this punishment, because it's not leading anyone anywhere. So the only thing left to do is get up the butt, start doing the work, and appreciating the self. Let bygones be bygones. Every day you can start anew. Every day you can start with the prayer to God. Even if you're the most unawake person, but you're somehow something nibbling at you and niggling and saying, wake up every day. But I don't know how. Pray. Pray to God to sincerely show you how. And when something comes and knocks on your door, don't then just shut it off. Because that's the assistance. That's the help. That's the love carrier pigeon. Don't shoot the messenger, right? Most people do. Because we live in a world that's still so highly messed with. And I have to tell you, even myself, being a direct light being descendant, I haven't had earthly lifetimes. Still, I'm an earth human. My kind of those thingies, right, that stick out of your head they're always alert. I learned to live that way because of my life situations and the way I am. I was always pure, but I was more naive than I am now. I have much greater wisdom than I had before due to these experiences. Because on earth, there's actually nothing more important than the experiential wisdom that you gain, but through pursuing the law, divine law. And this divine law is the same for all souls. If you think it doesn't apply to you, somehow you can hide from it, nope. It's the law that's made for all souls. And divine retribution will eventually happen, but not as a punishment, but because you are meant to wake up. And at this point, it's becoming crucially important for specific souls to wake up because they have a larger mission that they can conceive at this point. And those of us who are already on the other side of the game, we've gone through the ringer. We've gone through transgression. We've gone through the worst. I've gone through death and survived, not just once, but many times. We're standing there on the other side and we're kind of calling them like sirens, right? Like siren to a sailor. Come, come. Don't be afraid. And of course, there's still so much fears. I remember someone telling me last year, they said, well, but if I be with you and are drawn to you, I'm going to have to confront myself every day. Yes, but what's wrong with that? That's what love wants. Love wants you to grow. It's not going to be a bad confrontation because what these people think, they have so much bad experience from their karmic lifetimes and karmic experiences that automatically they assume the worst when it comes to someone of the light. That's actually their friend. You know, they're a victor, they're a supporter, they're an asset, right? They're an alliance. So automatically you assume the worst because you have the memory of something and you keep on assuming from the mind. You can't just open up the heart and surrender and let go. And let God and trust that God would not send you that so many times if there wasn't great value in that, right? So the messages I've been getting lately are as follows. Even when I was doing lots of oracles, I did that on my free time, which was very seldom that it happened, but it did. And at those times, I just went into my quietude, did the cards, read the energies. I listened to some readings as well. They were all kind of confirming the same thing. So those of us who are at the front lines of Illumined Union, and those of you who are following, you're kind of knowing this is your path. Even unknowingly, you're feeling the pull, right? That's how you know. You first feel the pull. It just resonates. Maybe you're not living physically that alignment yet, but it resonates. That's the journey. It's for you as well. Doesn't mean I'm better just because I went through the steps. No, I've just followed the stepping stones and I'm luring in all those devotees who are waiting, who want to be their true selves again, who don't want to be part of Luciferian agenda for God's sakes. Why? They were not born of that creation. They were born from the Elohim, an aspect and element of God that became the firstborn, and then they became the Christ and the fellowship of light. So you recognize your family. You know your family through the pull in your heart. The mind will doubt it. The mind is the seed of the doubt that the devil creates within you. So it keeps on sabotaging you, right? And I'm not saying that only people who are less developed, or not developed, but integrated in this path, they haven't done as much work as those of us who've been doing it for years now and focused only on that. But even the best of us, the strongest, the wisest, the most diligent ones can get fooled. That's what I'm saying. Remember when I had a dream about the whisperers acting through someone as an agent of influencing what you should think of them instead of what is the truth? And I mean, I'm always exposing them, but still I have to every day be in alignment of what's the sound of the whisper? What is the true voice of the God? How do you know? Because of love. Love never tells you no. I've told you that before. Sometimes there will be good and bad days, and very low energy days when we're hit by these lower frequencies. Everything, when I would do a reading or something like a guidance calling, I would get all these bad answers. Then on a good day, on this light-filled day, I would get totally different answers. Which one to trust, right? The mind would be like, yeah, but it's this and that. This Illumined Union path is an integration mastery path of both. Light has its say, dark has its say. All you have to do is be somewhere in between and recognize that both of these aspects are having their saying through you, but you're actually the one that's choosing. You're saying, I'm going to choose God's way. Because God answers through love. God doesn't say, for example, if the guidance comes, well, this person is getting so many chances, they always said no, this is their last chance. God doesn't speak their way. For God, there is no last, there is no, there's no final answer. God says, remain vigilant, hold the space of love and compassion. Sometimes people will deflect, they will go away, maybe they come back, they're being drawn back. But God says, just keep focusing on you, your love state, white state of purity. Anchor yourself. Don't defend yourself or don't try to explain yourself to another, because the more you try to explain, they're not going to get it. Sometimes I do that. I myself am guilty of that. Because I feel there's a sense of injustice happening to me, I'm going to try to explain myself. Like, can't you just see this? No. Sometimes we can't expect someone to see something if it's not their time or choice to see. Some people are choosing it the hard way. They're grabbing onto the karmic path until the last moment, until it's so bad. As you know, some people get sick. Or something happens in something they've been investing in, totally disappoints them, and they would have that shattering epiphany that, wow, they've been investing in something or someone that's not really true and genuine and was not of the path of divine alignment or love, even though maybe there were words, yes, and false promises. It was never actually embodied or demonstrated. I'm just saying, so I've been getting all these messages now that the first portion of transgression, which is transgression over the self, was complete, at least for me. I still have symptoms, I still have pain in my body, especially when I'm under a lot of stress, physical pressure, and that's when I need to focus on healing and bringing in the light, pulling in the light into my body, which when I'm in the 3D zone, I can't talk in the zone, I just can't. But the second portion of transgression now is hijacking of union. And I've been experiencing this for the last year, ever since my beloved told me certain things and showed me where and how I'm actually anchoring the physical beloved and through the counterpart energy. And at first I always thought, that's not my path. And I thought it was something else. But the only thing that's truly my path is what's right in front of me, right? So I was shown there's a lot of trickstery, even black magic, that's influencing these beings who are part of these unions, these coupling formations, but they're not willing to wake up. And even if they have a desire, they have a strong desire for this love. It's almost like a magnetic pull towards this true love. And something in their karmic dramatic situation continuously pulls them away and pulls them straight. Because you have to know, what I was shown at this point, the Divine Feminine came to do the more spiritual part of the work, the unveiling that is through the spirit. In my case, that's the truth, and that's how I experience life. The masculine counterpart was more of an earthly seated, earthly anchored, and because of that, they had more like jobs, relationships, learning through these things. They're being more manipulated through physical aspects, like relationships or people that are not people of high moral, divine integrity. They're not. You're going to say every soul is divine, yes, but in this moment, they're far from embodying that divinity. That's all I'm going to say. The feminine, because she's doing the spirit work directly, she is influenced from the higher realm. So she would get this deception and inception through, these lineages of communication. Because the masculine hasn't been that open in those channels in that way, they're being pulled away from union in that regard. So in that way. So this master we occasionally speak to, he's called Lamayan. He's also an Illumined master, and he's the one, if you remember, when I asked him once, I said, but how does he know me? Because he was always so in awe of me, and I didn't get why. I said, why? He said that I'm one of the most capable beings that he's ever known, had, the, how to say that, humble expression and gratitude of being in the vicinity and the presence of knowing me. And I said, well, how do you know me? He said, who doesn't, in the world of light being? So he's one very special individual. And he has actually just been telling us that why the union is so important now. And I have to get back to yesterday when I was by the White Waters. And when I was asking this question, God, why am I still here? God gave me a name. It's a person's name in my life. But through that, God said the beloved. And I said, oh, okay. I heard that. I could not unhear it. It was there. And I heard it many times before, and it's like all my energy goes there. In this last few months, it's just been going there. I've been leaving, goes back, leaving, goes back. It's something that God wants. And even when I would ask my cards or in my sacred space or charms, whatever I've been doing, what kind of divination, it's always the same thing. Always the same answer. So Lamayan explained a bit. He said that this union, the synchronization of the blending and melding of the feminine and masculine polarity energies is most advanced, most wanted, most desired outcome. That's a project dating back to eons of time, like billions of years ago. But right now, he said, because the Empress, in this case in my life, me, Aurea's child, has started, it's like started to roll a stone, you know, the rolling stone. It just started this process, and they're saying we're overseeing it. It's not always going as planned. He said, but there's so many of light beings sticking their heads together, just like seeing in what way, what direction this can go. Let's say there's two beings, they're very different, but their energies are very harmonious when it comes to their soul and soul lineage. And this is what I call the twin flame path. It's not, I don't think of the twin flame as most other people do, like two halves of the one soul. No, it's an integration journey. Feminine, masculine polarities being integrated. And we all choose a counterpart through which we're doing this work. And God said now, this is the most important work that's left. That's why the hijacking and the transgression was first done on the self, and now it's being done through the union. So these deceptions, manipulations, distortions are constantly being bombarded our way. And there is no other way but to learn, to see through the trickery and deception, and to constantly work on purifying yourself. Because if you ingest a little too much of that, you won't feel like yourself anymore. And like the masculine now is having lots of this dark night of the soul, tower moments, breaking apart of the things and beliefs he used to know, and still holding on tightly, but it's like, oh, just let go, you know. Because the moment you do, you can like come and enter into this totally different universe. And that's the reason why Illumined Union is not separate from Ascension. You know, I call my teachings, my sharing, Illumined Union and Ascension. It's the same thing. It's this Illumined Union that acts as a gateway, this preliminary gateway towards this physical ascension, because it's done through the cultivation of the tantric polarized opposite energies in the human body, from the spirit to soul to the body. And it's one of the reasons why these mystery schools are still being so hidden, like the Tantric Pleiadian work school, mystery school, Syrian as well, all these kind of very important mystery schools. It's now all being replaced by lots of hokey pokey, new age things, material that's really unjust to the true nature of God and simplicity of truth. It is so simple. And it's trying to overdevelop the human mind, and then act on these manipulative distortions that constantly act as agents of attacking the human mind. Even with this V thing, it's going to affect certain elements of DNA that would preliminary choose to work on enhancement of the mind, not the heart. I know people have been reporting about these blood clots, things like that. All that is the result of that. And it's unstoppable once it's already in your system. It's actually, unfortunately, not just by me, but by many who know this, it's an irreversible change. And because of that, it's so difficult to digest that something so vicious and vile can be happening. Well, let me tell you, what's been happening with me through this transgression and the body experiments is an abomination of God. But the reason why we've chosen it as light beings is because we have an advanced understanding of how to break through it. We wouldn't just go there as a sacrificial lamb to then die in the end. I mean, it was risky, not to say least. But what I'm saying now is that this divine union that holds a marriage of divine counterparts together, it's not a physical marriage like we know it is on paper in the governmental system of law, but this is divine law. And divine law only works on these three principles: the principle of unity, divine polarity, which is what makes you a creator being, a co-creator with God, not your independent self, which is what Luciferia wanted to do, become independent and free from God to create her own laws. And you can't do that truly, because there is only one. And all life already comes from that one. It's already glorious and beautiful when you know it. And the third is the Trinity, which is how life force is then channeled and mastered and cultivated. And when two beings come together in that tantric union, it is so super powerful, which is like the immediate antidote to all that the darkness is doing to our bodies. Why do you think that so many of us have been alone or abandoned, or, like the feminines haven't had their counterparts, or, vice versa? Because we're vulnerable in those energies. If you think as a being that you're only here to fulfill your physical needs, like food, reproductive nature, sex, higher sexuality has nothing to do with that. It is maintaining and regulating the system of the way your soul comes through the body. That's what sexuality is. And because so many of us have been devoid of that, we were kind of like broken to pieces and broken apart, and different regions, and now we couldn't visit each other with all these, we had these regional differences here in our country. You couldn't visit even another region, and it's already such a small country, and it's all created on purpose. So these couplings could not get together. You could not understand and feel the bliss of true love, this nature of just coming together, just being in their presence is already orgasmic. Can you imagine that? But there's still so many patterns of the mind, of distortion, disruption, that keep on sabotaging the hoax that the counter union is truly about. And so what the darkness is doing with the status quo humans who are unaware, they're sleepers in the way through the V, it's doing to us through this law of separation, right? And it keeps on influencing us we would get further and further away and apart from each other. It's very dirty. And that's where we need to learn to play the opposite game, which is the game of God. It's not even an opposition. It's just keep on pursuing the truth. And your body has a magnetic affinity through which God works. No matter how much manipulated and distorted your mind is, because these frequencies of light coexist, they're always there. They're impulses in your body. There are these seedlings of light that would guide you to the right person, that the pull is the right one. It's like your body can't deny. Like when you love someone, let's say, you can't deny. You can't even describe or explain why. It's the pull. It's the longing. It's the soul alchemy working, and it's kind of pulsating through and through. So because these marriages, these coupling formations of these two beings coming together are so important, all these patterns now, not being worthy enough, or the other person's more advanced, or they're cruel, or they're like this, all these false projections, or I'm still here in my life, or I want to hold on to this, or old outdated beliefs about life in general and sexuality, they have to be written out of the equation. That is your DNA, your divine heritage, your birthright, in order for this union to come together. I mean, the divine light beings can only do as much. We have to do the rest. And even for me, like I can do all the work I can, like as a separate self, as the feminine, I can only do the work for the feminine. I can't do the work for the masculine on that behalf. It has to be an equal exchange. They have to do their work too. So on that note, I want to say be vigilant, question everything, because there's a lot of things that many beings are still defending, and they're not of the light. So on a more positive note, I want to read you some beloved poems I've been recently writing. I think they're beautiful. I think they can act as an agent of opening your heart to love. I know many of you have been through much. Some of you maybe are frustrated. It's not just about people who've been alone. Some people were in relationships, but they were alone because they were with a person who's not really the counterpart. They don't have the right soul alchemy. They don't have that organic union that's just, you're just come together, and we don't have to strive hard. We're in that union. It's so organic, and that's how it should be. But when you think with your mind and you say, but when we come to this and that, why is it not organic? Because of the patterns. Because of the childhood wounds that the darkness still manipulates through, because of everything that was distorted, everything that kind of tells you you're not allowed to be happy, that you can't be and experience union in the physical human body and form. And that's what God said to me. That's why you're still here, because union needs to be experienced physically, and that's how it will be anchored into the 3D template. And from that template, it will create the most powerful eruption of love. Remember the movie Fifth Element? There's a whole truth there, right? When the main character and her human counterpart, or she was very stellar, but she needed her human counterpart. In the end, they come together. It's like this powerful wave of love. Okay? So I want to read you these poems as a heart activation, as just seeing the beauty and simplicity of the beloved, like through my eyes. Maybe to get you to spark up your own connection develop the inner beloved cultivation, for me it was very difficult, because I think that was the main reason why the hijacking of self was so important, because when you're wounded self and your body's in constant torment and torture, you can't feel the love. You can't even feel the orgasmic nature. Like, you know how long it took me to even get to a state where I can feel I can cultivate that again? I'm not doing it yet, but at least I came to a state when it's possible now that I can, you know? Because everything this was created to cut that off. And yet this tantric ejection, this ejaculation of light through the body, is the cheapest way through the ladder of spirit, ladder of source and ascension that exists. It's downward amazing, right? Yeah. So that's the first poem about the beloved love. What took me there was your sweet love, like I never experienced it before. Just like this, with one single kiss, opening doorways into bliss. The sweet embrace, a world unknown, the softness of your lips is guiding me back home. A tender touch, the warmest heart of all the hearts that now exist forevermore. It's mine and yours in this small world, becoming bigger, better, brighter as before. It's like I live in a new universe, where the whole existence measured by our love. No words can say just what I feel, and what is real and lasting every single day. What's yours is mine. What's mine is yours. You're my beloved, and I'm sorry that I didn't know. Before this life, and opening up to knowing now, is what I always should have known. But it's not too late, for there you are, shining bright and guiding me back into love. The Queen of Hearts, I'm always yours, and from this moment on, forever in your depth. Your every word I've ever heard has turned the beast inside my chest, has tamed the beast inside my chest so I can breathe and live as love is to be free, forever willing, hoping, praying, it's all true. For me and you, the door has opened and we're waiting here no more. Now we dance back into life. It's always been my one and only true desire, to know you as I know myself, to be with you and share a life I've always known. My inner king, so full of life, it's all because of you, my dear forever, only love. I love you, yes, I really do. Ignite the flames of sacred marriage, for I found you. And another one, this one is called The One. There's no one else left. They've all gone away, taken their prize, but not chose to stay. You're the only one left, my last final try. If you don't show up, I'll always wonder why. Why all this pain and suffering if I'm not meant to love? And how everyone got away doing what they've done. There's only you and me now, no one left in between. The fake dreams have shattered within the one that's real. If you don't see my light now, no one ever will. I'm shining brightly for us, for the fulfillment that is here. Men will be men, but the beloved is one. It is only you, my heart. Can you feel them leaving, and how my vision has scattered everything that the darkness brought as an offering? Let them have their way now, prisoners of the night, serving the lords of abomination as we serve the Almighty One. Let the goddess of white have her way with them now, many of them even more broken as before, falling at the bottom of the pit, learning their stubborn ways in ignorance, while God is righteous and offers gifts to all who serve love. All who chose to come in between us shall be removed. All that worked against us will be offered to the law. Those still on hold will have their final chance to listen and pay homage, to know the truth as the only one. Let them cry out, let them have their fury. While we wait, this is a fortunate outcome that you and I shall have, as two powerful beings who know what they are, and what lies ahead for them, beloveds of the united illumined heart. So this expresses beautifully the illumined union I feel always in my heart, that is me, but it's a longing for the expression of the counterpart, because that's the only way that it can actually get to the physical cultivation of that tantric bliss and magic that this union is. It's basically probably the most advanced yet simplest organic form of divine intelligence. That's why all stars are made, and that what we call this Big Bang, and this explosion, this eruption of orgasmic essence. And that's why at the first level we connect to each other with essence and through essence. So don't worry, don't doubt. If you have naysayers, you have people who are backstabbing, dark voices, whispers who work against, All you need to do in that moment where you're confused, say God's name. That I am God. I am the living embodiment of Christ. Because in that moment, you once again remember and you instantly turn the situation over. And like I said, we need to do it every day. God doesn't sleep, and so does not darkness. So you have to get very, very careful. And it will take time. There's a few people who need to be, like the masculine is going through a lot of turmoil right now. And they need to have also their own alone moments and realizations that, if the feminine has gone through this, you can't just offer it on the platter. Everyone has to get the initiation, the realization, the epiphany. That final one has to be your say, has to be your decision. Because no matter what the input is, and no matter how much life force is invested in waking someone up, it's just the seedling. And you have to make the choice. And that choice will open a floodgate. And everything that was already through that wide spiral revolving around you will erupt. And the legacy of love will start being brought through. So this powerful solstice is the beginning of something we're going to further emphasize, and maybe by that time I'll do another video on the 8-8. I might have a channeling because I'm now needing to get back to that mode of my automatic writing, but I am where I am now. Life somehow requires the physical presence of me in that way too. There is a higher reason, I don't know, but I had lots of feeling that when the feminine, who is more spirit-based and very spiritual in essence, enters the world of form, she holds a higher level of compassion for the masculine who lived in that world for so long already. So it's kind of like there's a higher purpose, I think, and I believe. Because once you go through something, you can actually see how difficult it is. If you're only here on the pedestal, you can't see the difficulty and that strife. So you decide to go there and bring your light there so you can ignite there in that breakthrough and open it as well. So remember, don't hold any grudges for what was and what used to be and what you still perceive maybe it is, but it's no longer it. Open your heart to love every day. Keep your prayers up every day when you have a nuance of a darkness and something needing to pull you, like pulling you, something dark and heavy. Return to the words, I am God. I am the living truth. I am Christ embodied. I'm the living testament of the Christ. And just as I said that, look. Oh, white butterfly. Ah! That's beautiful. I think it's time for wrapping things up today. Although, as you know, I can go on and on forever. I can talk to you forever. But it's over when the white butterfly comes for now. It's time for me to get back to my hammock. My back is kind of achy. And I hope you enjoyed your time. If you want to support my work, as you know, I'm still working. Not officially, but I'm always working behind the scenes on the development of these things, the evolution of Illumined Union on this planet and beyond, because as you know, those of you who will get it right this time, you will be having your free ticket to the next realm, which is a much higher dimension and plane of reality. It's not a matrix for sure, and it is what it is, and it's time to get it right this time. Don't wait. If there's an opportunity, and if you're watching these videos and it's like, don't go back. It's like, don't take another step back, because you are here now, and everything in this life supports you, and everything in this life loves you. And it's not always easy to be a being of love because there's so much opposition and oppression, but keep on holding it tightly. And remember that when you are under God's name, when you work for Him, her, mother and father as one, you are going to be protected. You're going to be really, truly divinely protected. And those beings who work against us as divine children of God, they will have their karmic retribution. And I think that's one of the ways, because God can directly influence the fallen beings, because there's beings who are literally fallen souls and beings who are just burdened souls. That's not the same thing. You have to read the Gospel of Christ, because it's not the same category. The burdened souls are just burdened from the outside. The fallen souls have made the inner choice to pursue the path of what we call the devil, right? Darkness. Non-source based and aligned, and rejection of the first primary creatrix that is you, that is all of us. So these burdened souls, some of them have made their passing, some of them are way through the magic lifeline, and some are still there, somewhere in between, and these are the souls working very hard now for. There was a message a few months back, if you remember, when we talked about fighting really hard, how God really wants to fight hard for these beings. But not just that, not just for their individual souls, but God also wants these unions to come together. So maybe if I'm well enough, I will do an Illumined Union reading for this month, but it probably will be published in July because, you know, June is nearly over. But it will come. If I get particular guidance, I usually do it through decks and channel messages coming through. Whoa! This mouse! Hey, you freaked me out. Not fair. I don't be like this on the camera, you know. You see the scaredy cat me. That's me, scaredy mouse. Oh man, it just like rushed at me. There's just so many mice here. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Coming for more when it's time. Wish me luck with all our physical investments and endeavors. It's not going to be easy. No one said it will. But I love you, and as always, so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care wherever you are. Don't forget to rest. This summer, we've been through a lot, all of us. So take it easy. I know I will. This summer, July and August, I'm just going to plug off and need to heal myself and my body and get back on my original weight. So thank you for watching, and just send me some love and support. If you ever wish to donate or buy any of the courses or sessions, I'm still doing sessions though. Some people have prepaid, and now I found the online, so if you're interested, that's open. But I'll see you when I see you on the other side when it's time. Do your own God diligent work, and just remember, you are purity. In the midst of it all, within it all, you are purity. Thank you. I'll be seeing you. Bye for now.